evangelicals at Liberty University, she has the honor of being the most requested political speaker. And it's easy to see why.
I'm pro-life not because the Republican Party tells me to be pro-life.
We caught up with her behind the scenes.
Thank you, Lord, for Ambassador Haley. Lord, thank you that she's our sister in Christ.
She's cruising through America to discuss her new book, With All Due Respect, Defending America with Grit and Grace.
You just have to lay it all out there.
And that she does, beginning with a childhood that placed a little Indian American girl in a small rural South Carolina town.
We were the only Indian family in that small southern town. I talk about how we weren't white enough to be white, we weren't black enough to be black. My father wore a turban, still does to this day. My mother wore a sari, and they didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. I remember when I would get teased on the playground, and I would come home and my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar.
That parental lesson has served her well. Haley's been very successful and a trailblazer too. She was the only female executive in her first corporate job, South Carolina's first female governor, and when serving as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, the only female sitting on the Security Council.
There's never been a line to the women's bathroom in any of the jobs that I've had. But what I've learned is if you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't protect your integrity, no one else will.
Hence the book title. After White House Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow suggested that she was confused about something that she said on a Sunday talk show, she knew her facts were straight and issued a statement, quote, with all due respect, I don't get confused.
I tried multiple ways to get them to fix this situation, and they didn't. And when they wanted to go basically throw me under the bus, you know, I wasn't gonna stand for that. But that didn't mean I needed to make a big stink about it. You can go and you can say something, and you can kick with a smile. You can do it without being hateful, and you can do it by still being strong. And that's what I've always tried to do.
Bless your heart, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
As governor, Haley's Bless Your Heart strategy turned to heartbreak in 2015 after the horrible church massacre in Charleston.
It was probably the most challenging thing I've ever gone through in my life.
She attended 9 funerals, all open casket, and grieved with the families. It became overwhelming. She lost 20 pounds, and a doctor friend said she was suffering from post-traumatic stress.
I was going and doing press conferences and coming back in the office and crying, or coming home and getting straight in the bed and just crying. And I was in such despair.
But through this painful process, something happened.
That was really a defining moment where my faith changed to an entirely different level. Because when you can't control what's happening to yourself, all you have left is God. And it was just handing it to God and saying, I need you to get me through this because I didn't know how to help myself anymore.
God had more plans for her, from South Carolina to the UN as U.S. ambassador, where she became one of Israel's most vocal defenders. In the book, she points out how President Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem was not popular even among administration officials.
When we discussed it in the National Security Council and, you know, in the Situation Room, I mean, the president didn't have a lot of people that supported it. He just didn't.
She talks about 2 people in particular who wanted to thwart many of Trump's policies and wanted her help to do it. Former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and former Chief of Staff John Kelly.
They were stalling and stopping what the president wanted to do, not because he was unfit or they thought he was being rogue, but because they disagreed with him on policy. That was when they tried to tell me they weren't undermining the president, they were trying to save our country, that I needed to join them.
Haley was a solid no. Instead, we find out through her book that overall, she's been a solid yes on Trump. She loves the results he's producing. And so it begs a spiritual question.
Is he there for such a time as this? What is your view kind of spiritually on the sovereignty of God and what he's doing exactly by putting Donald Trump as president of the United States?
Well, you know, I think it goes to show that everything happens for a reason. And so I think that God sometimes places people for lessons and sometimes places people for change. And you can look at everything that's happened, and I think we're seeing a lot of change, and I think we're gaining a lot of lessons from it as well.
So what about her? What will God do with her life going forward? She polls as one of the most popular politicians in the land. Could we be interviewing the soon-to-be first female president in 2024?
In terms of the future, I know, you know I'm gonna ask the question. You'll get back to me in another interview, right? Maybe 2024?
Yeah.
Will we have another interview?
I'll tell you the truth, we will have
Thank you.
other interviews.
Oh, that's good.
What I know is I'm too young to stop fighting. But I also know that 2024, 5 years is a long time in politics. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around, and we'll just take it a year at a time from there.
And you can be sure she'll be sporting a smile backed by that bless your heart attitude moving forward. David Brody, CBN News, at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Thanks, David. What an amazing lady. I think he's right. If we're looking for a candidate in 2024, Nikki would be the overwhelming choice.
It was interesting. Last night, my husband and I were saying that we both think, we would like to see her as president. We think that she could do it.
Well, sure she could. She's an amazing, a wonderful lady. But anyhow, the book is called With All Due Respect. What a nice thing. With all due respect, I don't get confused. You can find it wherever books are sold. Nikki Haley, this wonderful book, and this amazing lady. So here it is, and it's there wherever books are sold. Wendy, what's next?
Still had the most controversial faith-based film since The Passion. Why was The Reliant originally hit with an R rating? And what didn't the Hollywood leftists want you to see? Kevin and Sam Sorbo weigh in. But first, a vow for revenge. This vet's mom was brutally stabbed to death, and the murderer was his brother. So what stopped this blood vendetta? Find out when we come back.